Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Stupid Gun Myths. I'm Mike B, coming at you from mommy's basement as usual. Excuse me. I'm just getting over that little sickness that I told you about a few days ago. And if you're watching this months ahead of the time, and it has already passed, but that's why I still sound a little bit stuffed up and been a whiny little sickly bitch the past few days. But starting to get better, so I'm going to keep cranking these out. I've been kind of looking at the comments and getting some more ideas for this series. It seems to be pretty well liked. And this one is something that hasn't been brought up, but it's something that I've dealt with personally, especially when I was younger. Oh my God, it was the worst. But I still see this a lot on forums and whatnot, and just people that really aren't really savvy on guns or history or common sense kind of perpetuate this bullshit. And it's basically the title of the video is "This was my daddy's gun that he brought back from the army or the war." Or this is the M1 that my grandpa or my father stormed Normandy with, and that kind of bullshit. Well, that's complete and utter bullshit. Since even before the First World War, but we'll start there. The military has been federalized, so a lot of the state militias really went away and became National Guard units. And even before that, though, the state militias, the state's government would buy the weaponry for those state militia units or state guard units, and they would pay for them and mark them with U.S. property or whatever. If they were federal, if they were state, they're still the property of some form of the United States government. Now, especially in World War II, you're not going to be able to just take home the rifle you were issued because it's not yours. The government paid for it. There are a lot of things that you do keep, like your uniform and stuff like that, but even a lot of your gear and stuff, you have to turn that shit in when you're done. There's exceptions a lot more on gear because a lot of it's not serialized and it's not a sensitive item, but like a rifle or a pistol, it's definitely going to be serialized and kept really good track of. Now, I'm sure that people have brought home, their 45 or whatever if they were in a certain position of authority. But if you're talking, that's a very kind of minimal exception, and it wasn't the common practice because you get a bunch of guys that are just, cooking books and stealing, or not stealing, but I guess it is stealing, taking a bunch of shit that isn't theirs from the government. Eventually, somebody's going to find out, and the government's going to be like, why do we have this many thousands of guns missing? That's not a good thing. Now, that story has been perpetuated by people that I know, and I'm like, when I got older and realized that's bullshit, there was a guy that had a, was it an M1 carbine, or it was, God, it might have been a 1903 actually, and he goes, yeah, my dad brought this back from the war, and I'm like, oh really? Because it has a Century Arms import mark on the end, or whatever import mark it was on the end of the barrel here. I'm like, really? He brought it back from, and then had to get an import mark before 1968. And and he's like, well, yeah, this. I mean, you cannot tell these people any different. Their mind is really made up, and if you tell them otherwise, it's not my granddad's gun he carried to save the world. They get all pissy and butthurt, and they refuse to accept facts that are in front of them. So, and here's the most likely scenario, and this does happen a lot, even today, kind of. You get out of the military, you turn in your weapon, especially. Maybe you kept some gear, maybe you didn't, who gives a shit. The military does collect weapons back when you get out. 99.9% of the time, you're not going to be able to just walk home with it. This isn't Switzerland, you don't have the option to purchase your firearm. You just turn it back in. Now, I guarantee you that, once these guns become outdated and, these were starting to be surplused in the 60s, so were the M1s and whatnot. After they get replaced with things and they become surplus, they were sold on the civilian market. Yeah, absolutely. You can get a rifle exactly like the one you carried in Normandy or, Korea or Vietnam or whatever. You could get one. It might not be the exact rifle you had, but you can get one. So that's kind of where I think that myth started, was maybe it was communicated wrong or poorly that, this was your dad's or your grandpa's. It's like the rifle your grandpa carried in the Second World War when he stormed the beach at Normandy. He had an M1 Garand or an M1 carbine, and so that's probably where it started. And people just assumed that, oh, that's the one that they carry because you can just take weapons home from the United States government. They're not going to track that down. Yeah, but there are still people that no matter how much I tell them, they'll still believe that, oh, I'm right. No, this is the exact one. There have been a couple cases where people like remember their serial number. I remember mine from when I was in, and they'll end up getting lucky, and somebody will find that particular weapon that they actually used when they were in the military. But that's such a rare occurrence. It's a very rare occurrence, and it's actually really cool because it has happened a couple times. But again, not the norm at all. And you have to actually do some work and track it down. And you didn't walk home with it. You had to go through the process, and they had to be surplused out and sold. So, but again, yeah, if you meet somebody that says this, there's a 99.9% chance that it's bullshit. And, you can tell them that, like, this is the plumbus that I used to take out Saddam Hussein's regime single-handedly in Iraq in 2004 or 2003. So, I mean, that's the kind of shit that, maybe they'll believe that if they believe that they're, that's just daddy or grandpa's gun that he jumped into Normandy with or landed in Normandy. No, it's not the case. Same with like a 1903. They were all surplused. There's the minor exceptions, sure, but that's, again, not the norm. That's what these myths are. People want to focus on the exception for everything. It doesn't happen that often. Like today, especially because you got the select fire weapons. There's no fucking way you're walking home with an M4 or an M16A2 or a 249. There's no way, and it's not like the military just randomly started keeping track of their sensitive items like weapons and shit. Like, it's been very well and meticulously kept track of. We haven't really had, our own weapons being used in a war since probably the War of 1812. And then we got our standing army after that, and the government bought these arms and supplied them so people didn't have to. That's the only time I can think of where, that story would have been true. This is the rifle or the musket that my grandpa or dad used in the war. But since then, yeah, the U.S. government, they tend to keep a pretty close watch and eye on shit that they paid money for. But again, that's common sense. You'd have to understand basic government and kind of just, use your brain a little bit to figure that one out. So, yeah, it's kind of a fun, unique myth. It's, again, I've heard it so many times. There was people that had like, I think somebody had like a Spanish Mauser or something like Swedish Mauser. And they're like, yep, this is the rifle my grandpa carried in World War II. And I was just like, it's like that line from The Hangover. You were literally too fucking stupid to insult. Like, at that point, I just go, okay, whatever. Yep, that's fine. Again, I'm not going to convince you because your mind is already made up and you know everything. So sometimes with these myths, if you try to correct somebody in a nice way once and they just keep going with their, what they think, it's best to just say okay and walk away. It's not even worth the argument or the fight. So anyway, that's about all I've got on this video. This will be a little bit of a shorter one. So thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the new subscribers and viewers and everybody that's been commenting on the channels with different ideas. This series is going to be pretty cool because there's so many myths that surround guns because it's like a cool topic. It's a guy topic. If you sound like you know what you're talking about, everybody will think I'm cool. So yeah, these myths are basically endless. Maybe we'll get to the end of the list someday, but new ones keep popping up every day. A lot of them come from Hollywood, and a lot of them actually come from veterans themselves, which I know, a little foreshadowing, I'm going to make a video that's going to be very unpopular with all the hero worshippers here in the States. But it's also going to be about gun myths and kind of the origin of a lot of them. So thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it. Consider supporting the channel through Patreon. Link is in the description for that. $1 a month, $12 a year. It's a couple cups of coffee. It helps me get props like this and then go out and make other videos like in the summer when it's not disgusting outside. And do shooting videos. We do helmet ballistic tests and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of fun. $5 a month or more gets you into our Discord server, which I'm usually on during the day and stuff. So yeah, consider becoming a supporter on there. Thanks to all the new supporters I've got currently. Got some really cool stuff for the channel coming in. You're gonna love what the Patreon supporters have allowed me to purchase, and so on and so forth. So thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate it. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you on the next episode of Stupid Gun Myths.